People are always struggling with setup of their playback systems. This is a short overview of audio playback system setup, or what I like to call voicing. It's similar to what is done with organs. They voice to the room. They work on pitch, they work on tonal balance, they work on attack, loudness, location of the pipes within the room, with the reflections of the architecture and also the aiming of the pipes as well. So it's kind of similar, and so I kind of like the analogy, and because what we're doing is optimizing the equipment with the room to make it so that it is performing at its maximum, at its best, so that the investment of your equipment is performing at its most, so that you get the most enjoyment out of it. So when is it that I do the voicing? A couple of times, there's a couple of scenarios. One is people will call me to help out with optimizing their setup, and I'll make recommendations. And so I will voice the system to whatever degree we need to, or we have agreed to work on it. And then another time is after acoustic treatments or recommendations have been applied, and then I would come on site again and voice it again to optimize it, to make sure that the acoustic treatments that have been recommended and installed are at the right place, at the right locations, in the right quantities, and are of the right type. So why are we optimizing the room, or why are we voicing? It is to optimize it. It's to make it the best that it can be, given the limitations of the room and or of the equipment. We'll make it the best that it can be. So what am I voicing? The first part of any evaluation of a system is to what I call take its vital signs. So we're going to be making sure that the equipment is working up to spec, that is properly set up and hooked up. So I'll be looking at first power quality, and then output levels of the source equipment and the preamplifiers to the amplifiers and so forth, channel verification, channel polarity, make sure all the drivers are working and that the driver polarity is correct. And sometimes when it's not, that's intentional. So we'll reach out to the manufacturer and make sure that that's the way it's supposed to be. And we'll do driver rub and buzz tests. Frequency response, maybe there's impedance issues. It's interesting that about 20% of the clients that I go to on site to make recommendations on their system, I'll find that a driver's not working, or it's reverse polarity, or even channels are in a surround sound system not properly hooked up. So yeah, it surprises me. There are often even manufactured internal wiring that's incorrect. And then after that's the vital signs. That's important to establish, so that then we aren't chasing our tail, trying to make sense of what's going on. So then the more of the voicing part comes, and so I'm looking at optimizing the listening position within the room first, and I'm listening to low frequency response, and then I'm looking at the subwoofers and or the the main full range speakers, again, to place them where low frequency response is not being exasperated by the the room modes. And then it's a matter of separation of the speakers. Is it, the geometry as far as the listener and the speakers as far as separation. Don't want a hole in the middle. We want a nice, solid, filled sound stage without the mid-range sounding thin in the middle. I'll use voice quite a bit to work on that. And then we're talking about toe-in, and again, timbre, and also spatiality, not just sound stage, but image size of the instruments or the voices. And then finally, we'll really blend in the subwoofer with the mains. We'll get the frequency and the amplitude and the phase correct with the mains with the mains, and then we'll do a buzz and rattle of the room. Make sure that there aren't any objects that are making noise that would interfere. Then I'm looking at first order reflections and reverberation times and seeing if there's any slap echoes and so forth. So what do I use to do this? There's quite a few tools. And so we're talking, test microphones, signal generators. But I primarily am using my ears and my experience. But I may need to investigate or confirm or maybe even document. And so I'll use signal generators and acoustic software and microphones and various types of analyzers. But the ears are the most important tool. And they're the first and the final tool that I'll use. They'll have the final say. Note that with a microphone and a test signal being generated, that's one thing, but a pair of experienced ears is quite another. Notice that both work together, and so both are needed to do the job. There's many things that we can measure that we can't hear, and there's many things that we can hear that we can't yet measure. I also use a voicing CD or have it on a flash drive as well, with a lot of different kinds of music that I'm familiar with. And a lot of this I've used since I was a little kid, so I've heard it on thousands of systems. I'm very familiar with it. Some of them are outstanding recordings. Others are maybe not so, but I know what's what and the way it's supposed to sound. And so I'm listening to the sound quality. And, again, this is going to be the first thing I'm going to do, and this is going to be the last thing that I'm going to do too. I've got piano soundtracks. Piano's great because it has so much voicing, and it has attack and decay and harmonics. And a nice stereo recording, there's a nice spread. And so piano is really the first thing that I'll use to evaluate a system because it gives me so much information. And then I'll use voice, human voice, male and female, listening for naturalness. And I'll play all kinds of music, jazz, classical, choir, organ, big band, rock and roll. And that way I'm listening to different aspects of music. It might be tranches, it might be dynamics, it might be macro or micro dynamics. It might be image size or different spatial cues of the recording that I know need to be there and the placement when it's proper. So that helps me with, again, the separation, the toe-in, the acoustic treatment. I know when things are dialed in, when images are where they're supposed to be and the size they're supposed to be within the three-dimensional soundstage. There's even another disc that I use with the leader recording that has some great imaging that is, it's specific just to see how well the system is imaging as far as spatial cues going up, height and width, and it has an arc and so forth. So that's it as far as an overview. And I plan to do more detailed videos on each of the steps, because there are 30 something of them. And of course, every job is unique, and some are not needed, and others I have to investigate much further. But in general, there's 30 something general tests that I do to confirm that the system is operating at the best that it can. People have asked me regarding voicing, how much of it is art versus science? And I made a video about that, and the link is right here if you want to check that out. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.